hope you guys are doing well. Today I am going to show you a couple journaling cards and a couple pockets that I made for my junk journal. This is the last video in this series before I show you a flip through of the final journal. So hope you have been enjoying everything, enjoying the process, seeing how I've made some things for the junk journal. And hopefully you'll stick around and see the final flip through. I hope to have that up here in the next week or so. Sometimes it's hard to get these videos up and do all the voiceovers, so I apologize if it's not up in the next week, but I should have it up very soon. I am actually starting to go back to work here. We're going to be going back at least Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm still working every day, but I'm working from home. And once I start going back to work, it is going to get more interesting. Obviously, it gets more busy. I have really enjoyed working from home. I get a lot more accomplished. I'm not as distracted. So it's going to be interesting going back to the office a couple days a week, but it is nice that I get those couple days instead of coming back full time. It'll be a nice transition, getting used to going back into the office. Anyway, I am working on these cards. These are just index cards that I have coffee dyed, and then I added some of my decorative sprays, my ink sprays that I have in my stash. I think I used some Heidi Swap sprays and then maybe some Lindy Stamp Gang sprays. Just very subtly. I didn't want to add a lot, but I wanted to have a little bit of pink color. I am backing this card with my Porch Prints printable. It's kind of like a collage piece, and I like the roses on it and the pink. I thought it would look nice. And I added just some cheesecloth here on the left. I stitched all around, and you can see my stitching is super crazy looking. I didn't put my bobbin on correctly, and it ended up stitching super crazy. So you can see how that looks, but I think it ends up looking fine in the end, and I ended up covering the stitching in the back because it was atrocious with another piece of that printable, and you can never tell in the back now that I covered that up. Here's another card. I am using some Tim Holtz die cuts, and then that little bee, that is a Tim Holtz stamp that I die cut out. I just stamped it on some coffee dye paper using some walnut distress ink. Here's some more of that My Porch Prints printable. I absolutely love this printable. It's super pretty. Just gluing everything down, seeing where everything looks nice. I'm going to fold this over to the back side here. And then I'm going to add that bee on. I am going to ink around him just a little bit and then add him with a little bit of that 3-in-1 glue. He does blend in a little bit, but I think it's fine. I don't mind. I am going to distress ink around the edges just to have it pop off the page a bit more, or pop off the card a bit more. I'm going to put down some more cheesecloth. Really like using this cheesecloth. It's just coffee dyed cheesecloth that I'm going to kind of rough up so that it looks all tattered. And just adding a little smidge of it, and I do pull off that bee because I want to add it underneath the bee, and then it helps the bee pop off a bit more. And there, you can kind of see him just a little bit better. Using my glue stick, because this is copy paper, it lays down really nice. So I'll stick that down. And the reason I like the glue stick too is it just helps everything and all the edges go down. When you use some of the other glue, if you're not using a paintbrush or anything like that, then you have all these little edges that kind of flip up. The glue stick, you can really get to all the edges, and then everything lays really nice. So that's another reason why I use the glue stick. The other thing you could do too, if you don't like glue stick and you need something that's going to be a little stronger, you can use like a PVA glue and then pour it out and use a paintbrush and then paint it down. That will give you a nice edge to edge glue as well. Here's some of the extra encyclopedia paper that is coffee dyed. I just wanted the edge. Tim Holtz paper, I'm going to just rip some of that out, ink around all the edges, and then add that down as well. These cards are journaling cards. I try to not put too much on them because I do want the person that has this junk journal to be able to have some space for journaling. So in the front of this one is pretty much your journaling space. It's not quite as much. The other two cards that I'm making have a little bit more space, but this one I want to just kind of collage in the back. What you can do too is you can add some coffee paper on top of this, or some line paper on top of this collage, and then you can also journal on top of that too if you want more journaling space. The album that I'm making does have quite a bit, or the junk journal I'm making does have quite a bit of journaling space and plain pages, so these are just kind of more fun decorative elements, and I didn't feel like I needed to have a ton of extra journaling space on these cards just because there's a lot of blank pages in the album that you can write on. Here I'm just adding some more pieces, using my 3-in-1 glue on this, again with cardstock. Just going to continue to look through my stuff. Here's some more printables. I'm going to pull out a piece of that to kind of go in that top section. Again, just ripping it out. Again, I like the edges a bit more than if it's straight, and then inking around them, gluing it down with some glue stick, smoothing it down with my card. And that last little piece there. I will add some more embellishments on top of this. This looks a little haphazard, I think, right now, but once I put the embellishments on top, I think it ends up really making the card look a lot better. Adding a little glue there, it ripped when I try to put it down. Trimming the edges. I always like trimming the edges. It feels like I'm like have this big reveal when you do that. I don't know. Does anybody else feel like that when they trim the edges of their card? It's like the finishing touch almost. So here I'm going through some Tim Holtz die cuts and some printables I had. This is a little butterfly that I got from Far Mirage, I believe. Just going to fussy cut that pink one out. Looking through, I feel like I need something on the right hand side. It looks a little plain. And I found this little flower that I thought was really cute. I'm going to ink around it and I'm going to glue that down. Or actually, no, I'm not going to ink around it. I'm just going to glue that down. And use my card just to make sure everything lays down flat. And then I'm going to trim off the little excess on the top and bottom. And I like how that brought everything together. Kind of made that choppiness of the card kind of look a little bit nicer. Inking around the edges, and then I will end up stitching after I do this card. So here is another one of those coffee dyed index cards. Here's some really old book paper. I think I got some Happy Mail recently. Inking around those edges, tearing it out, and I'll glue that down. I have a tendency to hoard some of the stuff that I get in Happy Mail because it's just so pretty and I really like it. But you know, that's silly. I need to use it. That's why I have it. It's a little easier because when I get in Happy Mail, they've already torn it out of the book, so it's a little easier to use because I'm not tearing the pages out of the book myself. But I have learned that, you know, it's okay to tear the pages out. It's giving that book a second life. It was at Goodwill or someplace else that, you know, was either going to go in the bin or, you know, possibly not used. So I feel like I'm using it or giving it kind of a second life by using the pages. Here I'm just trimming out these tags, trying to figure out what I like. I like the butterfly one better. I will fussy cut that because you can kind of see that the wings of the butterfly go over the tag, so I will fussy cut that with some of my little cutter bee scissors. Just collaging a bit more before I end up putting that tag down, inking up. That's more Tim Holtz paper. Just trying to give the tag kind of a base to sit on. Going to punch a hole, and then I am going to string some crochet string through here. Finish it off. I don't like my tags being naked. Feel like I need to have something on them. And before I adhere that down, I am going to stitch around this card. And then I'll show you what both cards look like stitched around here in a second. First, on the back, I just want to add some paper. This is really light paper, so even though it does have a pattern on it, you can still journal on the back of it, which is really nice. So if you do want to use this card as another space to journal, then you should be able to do that. Making sure everything sticks down real nice. And just trim around the edges, and then I will ink around this and then stitch around it as well. I do let my glue dry a bit because I don't want to send that glue, even though it is a glue stick and it's not too much, I don't want to send that through my sewing machine when it's goopy like that, otherwise the needle will get all funky. So I'll let that sit to dry for just a little bit before I end up stitching it. Really like how that looks. I am going to add a little bit more fabric here. Just felt like it needed a little something, so I'm just going to stick that down with some of my 3-in-1. I think I end up adding another piece of muslin here as well, just giving it some extra texture. There's my stitching around the card. There's that stitching around that one. Oh no, I don't actually add any more muslin. I do add a little bit more cheesecloth though. So gluing down the tag now that I have everything stitched around this card, making sure everything is going to stay down really nice. And then you'll see here I'm going to add a little bit more cheesecloth there in the bottom corner of that tag. Felt like it just looked a little funny, like it was missing something. Just a little piece, nothing too big. Make it look like it kind of joins up with that. It's not two different pieces. 3-in-1 glue works really well for this because it is a fabric glue. And I like how that looks. And on the back side, I just want to cover up that stitching, so I have this offcut from when I trimmed off the pieces from the other tag or the journaling card. I'm just going to glue that down. This is why you should never throw your scraps away, because you can use them for pretty much anything, even this little bitty strip. So basically when I'm making a project, I kind of just keep all my scraps sitting there on the right hand side or left hand side of me, and then that way when I'm going through making stuff, I can just pull from that. And then when I'm done with the project, anything that's that tiny, I usually end up throwing away. Now I'm just measuring to see how big these pockets it can be. These are some pages from my glue book that I've been using to glue down my embellishments. So I'm going to trim these all down so that they fit as pockets on the page. And just going to use my ruler here and then trim everything down because I like that kind of roughed edge. And I'm going to use that one as a template to then trim out the rest of them. So now everything's trimmed out. I'm going to start backing these with different paper. This is again some My Porch prints. I'm just trying to find out where I want the book page, so I end up using my pencil just to outline that so that I make sure that I use the piece of paper where I want it. And then I'll just trim that out with my ruler, and then I'll glue this onto the card. Now these are pockets, so I only have to decorate the one side, and I'm just using my glue stick because it is thin paper, and just laying everything down and then smoothing everything with my card. Trimming out some of the extra edges that are overhanging. Where I fold the paper, I end up folding it over, and where the fold is where the top of the pocket is. I think that keeps it a little bit more strong than having it at the bottom. So where the edges meet, I keep that at the bottom, and then the folds at the top. I think it just gives a cleaner edge. Here I'm just auditioning a couple of things that I've trimmed out of or die cut out of encyclopedia paper. And then I have this little butterfly I was going to use earlier, and I decided not to, but I'm going to use it on this page. Here's some more of that Eco Hues dyed paper from My Porch prints. I just love this paper. It's so pretty. I'm going to use that here on the right hand side of the pocket as kind of a base where the flower and butterfly are going to sit. I'm going to glue that down. Just trying to figure out where my glue is going to go so that I don't have glue everywhere. Just mushing that down. I'll trim away the excess, and then I'll add the butterfly and the flower here in just a second. I really like how these flowers look trimmed out of the encyclopedia paper. I think it looks really neat. It's just some coffee dyed encyclopedia paper. I ended up, even though I really like them, I just didn't think they looked right on this card, and I had this label that I've cut out from some wrapping paper that looked like it has music notes on it, and I decided to use that instead. So I'm just going to punch holes in the ends of this because I want it to look more like a label, and I'm going to add some brads here on the edges. And then I do this instead of putting it through the card because I didn't want the brads to show through the other side of the card, or the other side of the pocket, because I didn't want it to kind of get in the way of things going in and out of the pocket. So I just put it on the label itself. Here's a scrap of muslin. I'm going to end up, I think, put some stitching on that. Yep, some zigzag stitching. And then I'll glue that down, and then I'll glue my butterfly on top of that. I need to find a place for those little flowers here on the left. I really like what they look like, but I just can't seem to get them to work on any pages. They just don't seem to fit right, but I do really like how they look with the die cut. So someday, someplace they'll go, I'm sure. So there's that one pocket. Now I'm going to move on to the next one. Just some more porch prints here. And a glue stick. Sorry if you hear that, a car driving by. It has a really loud motor. Apologize if you can hear that on the video. Here's some more of that DCWV paper. Just going to add that to the bottom here. Trim it out. Make sure I pull off some of that extra white. Then I'll end up just gluing that down again using my 3-in-1. Making sure everything lays down real nice, and I'll just trim out that extra. The nice thing about using like the cardstock instead of only the copy paper is that it does give a nice stiffer pocket here. Trying to use those flowers again, like I said, I really like them. Instead I'm going to use this label here. This is just a label that I die cut out of some of the paper from the paper pad. And this will be a nice base to put some more embellishments on. Glue that down really nice. Always inking around the edges. Trying to get some of the extra glue off of there. The nice thing about that 3-in-1 glue, it kind of is like a rubber cement kind of texture. So if you do have some extra, as long as you rub it off when it's getting dry and starting to dry, it comes off really nice. And you can use those little rubber erasers too, and that will help get the glue erasers. I'm sorry, those little rubber glue erasers, and that will also help to get some of that glue off. I'm just auditioning a couple birdies on this to try to see what I like. I really like this little guy the best. I think he's some kind of swallow, possibly. I'm not a bird person, but you know, I think that's what he is. Just using my blending tool, I thought he was a little too white, just inking him up a bit to give him more of that vintage look. And then I'll glue him down with a glue stick. He's got all those little intricate pieces. I thought that would work the best to make sure he is adhered down well to the page. And then I'll just use my little card to make sure he is on there real nice. Here I'm looking to see maybe I want to add some of this lace, and I'm just going to add a little touch of it towards the bottom. This is lace that came on a roll from Walmart. It was like in the craft section, and I thought it would look nice in some projects. It's pretty stiff, but I think it adds a nice little textural touch sometimes to your cards, pages, and things like that. So I think it works here. Just trimming off any of the extra that was left hanging on. And I thought I just needed just a little something here on the top corner, so I thought I'd take some more of that eco-dyed paper and put it there up in the corner. I don't know, I just felt like it needed something. It was not seeming like it was balanced, and I think that kind of balances everything out a bit more. And just going to add a snippet of this cheesecloth here in the top left as well. Just trying to make it look real messy. Thought it would look nice. Again, just adding some texture. I thought it kind of balanced out the texture from the lace at the bottom. I thought I'd put some up at the top here. And I think that looks nice. Now I'm going to move on to my final pocket. And then I do stitch around these pockets, so I'll show you that towards the end. Here's some more paper from that paper pad. I really like the little pansies, so I want to make sure that's showing, so I'm just going to glue that pocket straight down to that. Again, using this heavier cardstock makes the pocket really strong. Just going to trim that out. On this one I am going to add another paper towards the bottom, and then I'm going to add some more fabric and a Tim Holtz die cut. Just looking to see what paper is going to look nice here. I really like this purple. I think the purple looks nice with the pattern that's on the pansies. Just marking this off so I know where to kind of cut. I'm going to use my ruler. I just like that look better than the scissors sometimes. And it's kind of satisfying to trim out the paper with the ruler. I don't know, just the tearing sensation, I guess. I don't know. So I'll make sure this is all going to be glued down really nice with my 3-in-1. I'm going to put a strip of fabric across where the two pages meet, or the two pieces of paper meet. I thought it looked a little funny just kind of sitting there like that, and I thought that the fabric will kind of bring the two pieces together really nice. So you'll see I'll pull some of that fabric out here in a second. Going through my die cuts here, trying to figure out what looks nice. Some of these die cuts are just way too big, and I'm going to end up putting one of these little cards here on here. I think it's the one with the little bird on it. Or no, sorry, these flowers. I thought the flowers looked nice with the pansies that were on the paper. Inking around the edges just to get rid of that white edge there. And I really like how that looks. I think that blends in really nicely. Here's just an extra strip of that muslin fabric that I'm going to just glue that down. And I will end up adding some ink towards or on the fabric a little bit. I thought the fabric was just a little too white. So you'll see a little bit later that I'll add a little bit of the vintage photo here on that fabric just to kind of blend it in a bit more, to make it look like it fits a bit more. So I did want to add something to the bottom left, so I'm taking some more of the book paper that I had, inking it up, and I'll add that down to the bottom left, and I'll layer that up with another piece of paper. Trying to see what else might look right. I think I end up adding some more fabric on the bottom here too, but I do add some more of these die cuts. So I'm just kind of auditioning things, seeing what looks nice. I end up using that little ladybug, I believe, with some fabric. I used a bee already, so I don't think I end up using the bee on this one, but we'll see. I can't quite remember. It's been a couple days since I made these. Just trying to figure out what's going to look the best. And I do think this cheesecloth will add a nice texture to it. And this is when I decided to also stain up the muslin fabric because I'm using the coffee dyed cheesecloth. And I think that looks better now. So I'm just going to start gluing everything down, and I will add some stitching around this as well. So you'll see that here in just a couple minutes. I'll show you that. While I'm finishing this up, I actually do end up using the bee. I thought I used the little ladybug. I guess not. So here is the final product. Just going to glue everything down here now that I've stitched. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day. And if you have any questions, leave them below. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, I'd love to have you a subscriber. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.